Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hoopers Lab podcast. This is the podcast where we talk all things basketball. I'm your host, Brody, joined here by my co-host, Riley.
Hello, hello.
Hello. You'll be able to hear him better now because he actually has a microphone. So, upgrades, people, upgrades.
Smart upgrades.
Yes. We're investing. Um, so, we got our power forward list today, as you can tell by the title. And what we're going to be doing is ranking the top 10 current power forwards in the NBA. So we got guys like... So we didn't have guys like Tatum and LeBron on the small forward list. They are on the power forward list. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Go watch the other ones if you haven't. And let's begin with our honorable mentions.
My first...
Who's your first one?
Yeah, my first honorable mention is Pascal Siakam.
Okay, we're already starting off spicy P. Okay, talk to me about Pascal, because I have him higher.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I guess he had a good run in the playoffs, and obviously Indy in general. Nothing out of the ordinary. It honestly just kind of felt like another kind of similar season that he's been giving us. The points per game were a little low and statistically a little drop-offs in some areas, but obviously that's fine. I just think some of the other guys above on the list are a little more, I don't want to say versatile because he does have a versatile game himself.
He is very versatile.
Can create,
so...
but
yeah.
I just think, I don't know, maybe a little more, I don't want to say heliocentric, but just needs the ball a little more, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's fair.
But yeah, overall, he's still obviously a great scorer, very underrated facilitator. Defensively, I don't think he's really where he once was, but I don't think really that's on him because, I mean, he is in Indiana, and the only real defender there is Miles Turner, and I suppose Andrew Nembhard's pretty solid there as well, but yeah.
Yeah, so I have him quite a bit higher. I have him on my list. And I think the reason for that is just because consistency.
Yeah.
I think that there's not many players that are more consistent than him. He's also a good playmaker for his position. Like, he's a way better playmaker than lots of guys on this list that are kind of in that same area as him. So yeah, he creates a lot of his own shots too, which I value a lot. He has to do a lot of the work. He does make basketball look hard, but he also can make tough shots.
Yeah.
And he's always going to give 110%. Super versatile, and he's just a workhorse as well. He was playing for Nick Nurse, and he's a guy that he plays basically every game and 33 minutes a night. That's down from 37 the 2 years prior. So he's getting some more rest.
He's tired of being completely gassed.
Yeah. And he applies pressure on the rim, which I really like.
Yeah.
So, just an overall really solid player. And, yeah. One of my honorable mentions I have is Julius Randle. And Julius Randle does bring lots of the highs. But he also has incredible lows. I mean, if you remember the start of the season, he was horrendous at the start of the season. And even though he was horrendous at the start of the season, he finished the season averaging 24 points per game. And he's a guy that does need the ball a lot, even more so than Pascal. Well, yeah, about the same amount as Pascal. And Pascal's a guy that does have that defense on all-around game where he can affect the game in more areas than Randle. But yeah, Julius Randle is a guy that has made all-NBA teams and has looked like a star for the Knicks at times. But it's interesting to see how he's going to adjust this upcoming season.
Yeah.
He's not portable that we've seen from him. Maybe he could transition, but right now he's not a very portable player. He doesn't defend, and he's one of the worst playoff performers of all time. So,
yeah, I have Julius as a honorable mention as well, and it's just okay. You kind of hit everything on the head, and I kind of feel the same way from what you said about Pascal. He just makes basketball harder than it is at times. Just the way he, just the way he plays, and his style, very ISO heavy ball for a person that's not an amazing creator. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's always able. He can do a bit of everything other than defend, obviously, and yeah, overall just a super solid player. But I just think yeah, at the start of the season had him looking like the worst player in the NBA.
He was like one of the worst players in the NBA at the start of the season. It was bad. But yeah, you're gonna have those really low lows, and you're gonna have the really high highs. But he also has not shown anything in the playoffs, which I think is important. And Pascal's a guy that he had a pretty good playoff run, and we know what he's done in the playoffs before.
Yeah.
So, do you have any more honorable mentions?
Yeah, Evan Mobley.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, I just think obviously he's super elite on the defensive side of the floor. I just think there's still growing pains that he's going through on the offensive side of the ball. Still trying to figure out if he can legitimately space the floor, and kind of when he can be intricate integrated more into the offense.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'm hoping that kind of gets kinked out a little bit with Kenny Atkinson, but well, I suppose we'll kind of have to see more on that. But yeah, still too much of a question mark offensively, I would say.
Yeah, he's a pretty solid playmaker, though. I think that's a part of his game that's kind of underrated and overlooked. And then, yeah, like, we can maybe start to see him extend his range. We've seen it a little bit more this year. So that's something that I think he kind of needs to develop, especially if they're going to run those two bigs going forward. But yeah, like when he played center for the Cavs, it looked really well. So I believe that Kenny Atkinson will find a way to integrate him and Jared Allen together good.
Yeah.
My last honorable mention is Jaren Jackson. I have a feeling he's on your list. So is he?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think for me, like his shooting is a big hit or miss.
Yeah.
He's a guy that was looked to be a stretch big, and he's not really the shooter that I think a lot of people think he is. And lots of that is probably due to his form. But I just think that his shooting, like he's seen as this guy that's, he's such a good floor spacer. But I don't really think he's like that amazing as a floor spacer. Obviously, it is valuable for him to be able to stretch the floor, but there's other guys I have above that just do it better at the same position. But yeah, he's a great defensive player, but I think one thing for him is that this man cannot rebound the ball, which is something that, most of these power forwards also play center at times. Well, some of them. And I think that you need that kind of rebounding, and that's something that he just didn't do, and he just has never really been able to do. I think that this season we kind of seen more of his weaknesses, whereas we need to see him next to a center, which is why I think Zach Edey is a really good pickup for this team and why they wanted a center so bad.
Yeah.
Because it kind of, it would kind of help his weaknesses having a better center there.
Yeah.
And mostly for me, I think the main thing with Jaren is his defense. I think his defense is a bit overrated, which is why I kind of have him just as an honorable mention. He is an amazing weak side shot blocker. And he is used as kind of that Giannis role as a free safety. But in terms of like on-ball defense, he's not really all that. And it's just, I know that context is a thing, but it's crazy that he has a Defensive Player of the Year on his resume, and a guy like Tim Duncan never won a Defensive Player of the Year. Like, I know the contexts are very different, but that's just wild to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a guy that offensively, he's kind of just like, I don't know. I'm not high on his offensive game either. He has gone better at attacking on closeouts, but I just think that his shooting is something that is a bit overrated, and also his defense is a bit overrated. Still a great player, but he just doesn't make my list for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Okay, so number 10. Let's start our list. I'm interested because I don't think we've had really differences this early in our lists with the other positions.
My number 10 is Lauri Markkanen.
Okay, well, I also have Lauri Markkanen at 10. So he's the consensus 10. Yeah, Lauri Markkanen, amazing 3-level scorer. He's a guy that he's just such a sniper.
Yeah.
On pretty much 8 attempts 8 3-point attempts per game, he shot basically 40%. And he's a guy that he really is that Utah offense mostly. And for me, he's just super like well-rounded. I think he's really done a good job at rounding out his game in Utah. And he's just more polished now than he's been before. I think that he's kind of overlooked in this league just because he does play for Utah, but I think that the offensive talent is definitely there. And that's why it's so sad that when he signed an extension, because it's like he could have been so valuable and so portable and so impactful anywhere else. So,
yeah.
I mean, situation-wise, he's going to get overlooked, but he's an amazing talent.
Yeah, I just think he's like super portable, can kind of fit anywhere. Obviously, scores elite at all 3 levels. He's a bit of a he fits like incredibly well off ball, which is why he would be so dangerous literally anywhere other than Utah. And no slouch on the defensive side of the ball there either. Rebounds it well, and just in general does everything very, very well. And I think 100% he's super.
Playmaking is not there.
We didn't mention that for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, yeah. You're not asking him to really make decisions with the ball in his hand like that. Yeah. Which isn't a bad thing.
No, just a super efficient all-around scorer, which which I think is more than enough based off the past 2 seasons to continue to have a spot in the top 10.
Yeah. I think he's like, he hasn't made the playoffs yet in his career. He might be one of the most experienced players that hasn't yet. And I think lots of people are going to use that against him, even though that is literally not his fault, and that should not adjust his ranking at all.
Yeah.
Like, he would be doing this in the playoffs, like what he's doing. Like, I have no doubt. But, yeah, really, really good player, really solid. There's just guys above him that bring a bit more of those highs, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, Lauri Markkanen is consensus 10. Who do you have at 9?
This is where I have Jaren.
Okay, this is where I have Pascal.
That's kind of what I was thinking happened. But, this is where I have Jaren. Yeah. And I kind of agree with a lot of the things you said. The 3-point percentage and the volume is a little lower than you would hope. But I think I think part of that is, we'll definitely need to see the Grizzlies again next year. Obviously, just had a different offensive load in general with Ja being out basically the whole season and Desmond Bane missing a lot of time too. So I think we got to see other areas of his game offensively where he could kind of step up and improve. But I still think there's some of the key areas he needs to be better. And I think a lot of it is his beautiful jump shot, but
yeah,
I don't know. Obviously, it's not going to change, so might as well run with it. But and then defensively, I think I kind of agree in a sense that anchor role type defensively, I don't want to say is overrated, but it's just easier to kind of play that role when you're that type of defender with elite shot blocking ability and defensive IQ to protect the paint. I just think it's just a different style of defense, and the backline defense is just, it's obviously elite from him, but
yeah, for sure. I kind of compare it to like Giannis and Brook Lopez, like what their kind of defensive like how they play defensively. I think that's kind of what they're going to try and do with Jaren and probably Zach Edey. And I think that's going to benefit both of them.
Yeah.
But he's just a guy that great defensively, I want to say. It's just, I don't know. I think that Pascal I have over him just because of that consistencies. I think that he's a guy that I can rely on more. And he's a guy that I don't have as many, like, question marks about. He's more established, and he's a guy that I can rely on more.
I think that's
to
fair.
Have the ball in their hands, and I don't know. It's just a preference. So 9, I had Pascal. 9, you had Jaren. Who is your number 8?
My number 8 is Karl Anthony Towns.
I also have Cat here. Originally I had him lower, actually. But he is, like, when I was making the first version of my list, I think I had him, like, 10. but I have him 8 right now.
Yeah, I just think Cat's kind of another player where you get some really good highs, but some low lows as well. Maybe not as bad as Julius Randle, but
But he is like right there with them. I think those two guys are like
yeah,
the epitome of one possession. They'll do something amazing and they'll look like a really amazing player, and then the next they'll look like, how do you make that mistake when it's your like 10th year in the league or something?
yeah, no, and I think Cat's shown that he's not a defensive liability anymore for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, offensively, he can obviously score at all three levels at ease, and yeah, I just think he still runs into the same kind of problems, foul trouble. Sometimes gets too into the 3-point shot, even if it's not falling. And yeah, I think
against the Mavericks.
yeah, the playoffs kind of
Yeah.
showed that a little bit, but yeah, I think I still don't think it's enough to jeopardize his ranking in the list too much.
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
off of
for
a good,
sure.
a very good regular season from him.
Yeah, in the playoffs, we literally seen like the best of him and the worst of him, and I think that one thing that kind of put him above was that defensive jump that he's taken. He's a guy that has never been looked at as a good defender, but he was a guy that was holding his own against guys like Kevin Durant and Nikola Jokic.
Yeah,
Obviously, he wasn't like locking them up, but to be like the progression of his defense to even be able to hold his own has just been incredible. And yeah, he's a guy that's near 50, 40, 90 as a 7-footer. He's a guy that obviously we know what he can do as a shooter. And yeah, he makes lots of bonehead decisions, but when he's on fire and when he's playing his best, that's really when you see the full value of Cat.
yeah, no, I agree.
And I just really appreciate too how he's been able to make sacrifices on both ends. You know, he's a guy that when they got another 7-footer, like he's been playing center forever, and then the Timberwolves went out and got another big, and then he was like, okay, I'll go to the 4, I'll play more on the perimeter, and then also offensively, he's really allowing Anthony Edwards to take the leap that he has, because this has been Cat's franchise for so long, and he was able to seamlessly accept that he's the number 2 guy
Yeah.
now, and I just really value that. Yeah, kind of a resurgence year for him. I think that's reputation. I don't know, but then also the playoffs. I don't
No,
know.
definitely. I know like the regular season, no complaints at all whatsoever. Did
Yeah,
everything you could,
really good in the regular
everything you
season.
could want of him, and then the playoffs just kind of leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, but also you can't forget those highs. Like even though the last we saw of him, the last series we saw, he wasn't great. You still have to remember Phoenix and
Yeah.
the Nuggets where he was really good. So yeah, he is number 8. Who do you have at number 7?
This is where I have Zion Williamson.
Okay. I have Paulo here. I'm guessing we just have them flipped because
Yeah.
that's the only reasonable explanation.
Yeah.
You have Giannis at 6.
Giannis didn't make my list, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I just he's just a bit overrated. I don't know. He's not that good.
Hate that guy. No talent.
Yeah, voters be like. But yeah, I think that with Paulo, there's a good argument to be had with him and Zion. I think for sure. Yeah, I don't know. Who do you want to talk about first? Because we have them just 7 and 6.
I'll start with Zion, I suppose. I guess
Yeah,
I think his game at this point is just too one-dimensional to really warrant being a lot higher. And I think there's still just areas where he needs to be better in general offensively. Well, and I guess defensively as well, because defensively he's a defensive highlight guy, but there's quite a lot of times where he's just been a cone still this season. And
hey, it's an improvement.
it's better than
Progress
always.
is progress.
It's better than always a cone. But I mean, at least for
Yeah.
the most part, he was actually able to stay on the court this season. And then yeah, I just think offensively as well. You know, you're gonna get dominantly left-handed drives to the basket, and you know,
Yeah.
really no improvements on his mid-range other than one every 2-3 games, and it's, same thing with the three ball, no progression there, and it just makes guarding him a little easier. And he's taken steps as a playmaker, but I still don't consider him like an elite playmaker or anything. I feel like it's more of just
No, for
he's
sure.
able to make the reads off of his drives more so, if that makes sense.
And also a lot on the break.
Yeah.
I think that he's gotten better in that area.
Yeah.
Being a ball handler on the break instead of a guy that's like posting up the wing. But for me, I mean, obviously he's a force of nature, but he is losing some of that athleticism. You could definitely see it. He's dunking less, and he's getting like further and further away from the basket a bit. Still not like he's not taking 3-pointers, but he's just not getting as close to the rim as you once saw him do. For me, I just think that at their peaks right now, I just think that he has the ability to take over games a little bit more than Paulo. And I think that the main example of that was against the Lakers in the play-in game. And I mean, obviously both of them can take over games that much, but I think that Zion just, there's more attention on him. He warrants more attention.
Yeah.
He wasn't as awful defensively as he has been. And when he's playing with that chip on his shoulder, when he is in shape, like I think it was like midway through the season when he just, like basically after the embarrassing in-season tournament game, I think is when you really saw him start to have that chip on his shoulder and play with more passion, which I think is when he's at his best.
Yeah. No, well they were playing solid throughout the beginning of the season too. And then the in-season tournament hit. They shit the bed. And the national,
Their only national televised game,
the national
basically.
media was all over them.
The biggest stage.
And then
they were.
And then they had to kind of crawl their way back all season.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I like his playmaking. I think it's a little bit better than Paulo's at this point. But I don't think that's like that much of a difference. I mean, obviously they're very close. For me, I think that like I love Paulo. I just think that a lot of the weaknesses that Paulo has, people kind of overlook a bit.
That's fair.
Like Paulo, it's not like Paulo is a great defender. It's not like Paulo is this efficient guy. Like obviously, I'll give him lots of credit. Like he does so much on the court with absolutely no spacing. Every shot he takes is contested. He has to work harder than so many other players because the spacing on the team is awful. And he led them to have a 47-win season, which is incredible as a second-year player.
Yeah, and they almost made it to the second round if his teammate, his co-star, could hit a shot.
Yeah, literally. Like, they should have made the second round, and he's a guy that in the playoffs he really showed his worth because he averaged 27 points per game with absolutely no spacing, with all the focus on him. And the Cleveland defense, like, Cleveland has those defensive players, and it was just grinded out games that he was able to get buckets, really. And if he had a perimeter creator or a playmaker, like a true point guard, imagine how much better Paulo would be. Like, it's kind of insane to think about.
Yeah, no, I just personally prefer, even if he's not elite in some areas, I just prefer his more all-around ability in comparison. You know, like you mentioned, he's not a great defender, but I think he's, at least an average defender, but he can still grow on that side of the ball, definitely. And yeah, not an elite shot creator by any means at the moment, but can still do it when need. And you kind of saw that in the playoffs. He was I think in the playoffs he had more of those kind of takeover moments, where he really had to back the team all on his own. And I just really like his ability to get downhill, create contact, create pressure on the rim. And I just really like Paulo. Yeah. I think he's a very
if you're talking about pressure on the rim, look at Zion. But no, I get what you mean. They're both in the same tier. I think for me, I just didn't want to project, because I think that Paulo will pass him at the end. Like when we're talking about this in a year, I think that Paulo will be better. But I just think that I just didn't want to project as much, and I kind of want to look at in the moment. I think Zion is better as of right now. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's they're in the same tier, so it's like it's whatever. But yeah, let's go to number 5. Go to the top 5.
This is where I have Mr. Kawhi Leonard.
This is also where I have Kawhi Leonard.
I think I think he's kind of the tier splitter here.
He's the middleman between the next tier and Zion and Paolo for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. I don't really have a lot to say about Kawhi. I feel like this is just like the perfect spot for him. Obviously, he's still still good, super good on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously no Spurs Kawhi, but he'll still lock up when he needs to, when you ask him to. Had one of the healthier seasons of his career up until the end, like always. And yeah, obviously elite scorer, playmaking's never been his thing, but I think he's still able to make proper reads, and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like he played 68 games, which is great. But obviously, when you need him the most, he wasn't there.
He vanished.
He's a guy that, I really like what he's been doing with his 3-point shot. He's really become a knockdown shooter from that area. He shot 42% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. And I think that when it comes to the playmaking, I think that he's had more playmaking responsibilities in past years where he's had to kind of be more of a, like, they didn't really have a true point guard, but then since they got James Harden, I think that's kind of simplified his role more.
Yeah.
Because, like, before they got James Harden, Kawhi and PG had to do basically everything. They had to do the playmaking, they had to split up that responsibility, they had to do the defense, they had to do the scoring, but now Kawhi was just able to focus on, okay, I'm going to get my buckets, and I'm going to stop the opponent on the other end.
Yeah.
So we saw him lock in more defensively because that playmaking responsibility was kind of lifted off, gave him more energy, a focus on defense. We know what he can do as a shot creator. And when he's on fire, he looks like he belongs in that upper tier, that next tier. But when we're talking about his injuries and how often he's injured, even though he did play 68 games in the regular season, he had a great regular season, but it's the fact that he still was able to get injured,
Yeah, and it just feels like, can the man ever stay healthy? And at that point, at this point in his career, I don't know, man.
No, I don't think so. How old is he?
34?
Something like 33 or 34. Let me look. He is 33. Yeah, he just turned 33. But even then, I think that it's only going to get worse for him just because now with Paul George gone, he's going to be back to having more responsibilities, which I think that, like, last year was kind of perfect where, okay, Harden's got the playmaking. Me and Paul George, we just got to split up the scoring, But now he's going to have to basically do most of that scoring and most of that defense. So I think that that's really going to hurt him a lot.
The pieces they brought...
And it may actually hurt him.
Yeah, the pieces they brought aren't really going to help take away the scoring load at all. So yeah, I just it's hard to see him really getting back to any type of 2019 season. Obviously, 5 years later as well. So yeah, he's still great, but I just don't think we'll ever get to see that elite version of Kawhi again, just because he can't stay healthy for the life of him.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to number 4. Who do you have at number 4?
I have Jason Tatum here.
Okay, I love it.
I don't know. I've been going back and forth on it, having him higher, but I just feel like there's just I don't want to say talent gap, but like, because Tatum is obviously fantastic in his own right, elite defensively, obviously an elite scorer. The playmaking slowly progressed throughout his whole career. But I don't know. I just feel like I look at the top 3 guys and I just feel like I don't know if Tatum is on that level. And I guess the thing is, now that the top 2 of the top 3 are older, they're also kind of not always at that level, but like just for example, the Olympics, LeBron looked like the best player on the planet still, and it just kind of makes me wonder if the Lakers just have a terrible roster around him, or if he's just
They definitely do. I don't think that's a question.
if he's just
Like,
too old to constantly carry that
yeah.
load.
Yeah, since we're on the Tatum conversation, I want to build on that because I have him at 3. I have him one spot above. I don't have him at 2 though, which I think is where lots of people would put Tatum. So I think that with Jason Tatum, like you said, like LeBron has to cover defensively for D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, and Rui, who were starting. And like Jason Tatum has probably the best defensive like support around him that we've ever seen.
Easily.
Like it makes his job a lot easier. Not saying he's not a good defender because we know Jason Tatum is an elite defender, but it makes his defense seem a lot better when you got guys like Drew, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, and Porzingis on the court. Like, that's insane.
Basically, the two best guard defenders on his team.
Yeah, and then having a 7-3 shot blocker on the back line, and then having Jaylen Brown, who also is great defensively in his own right. Yeah, he is getting to the point where he's getting bigger and stronger, and he's able to guard more types of players in more positions.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that that's really talked about. He came into the league as this, like, thin wing. He was more of a wing, but now he's, like, a forward, and he's built. He's really got himself where he is able to defend in the post more. And I think that that's good.
Yeah.
I would like him to use his strength more inside the arc.
Offensively?
Offensively, yes. Because almost 50% of the shots he took were three-pointers this year. Like, obviously he is a great three-point shooter, but when it's not falling, I think that he just really relies on that shooting. He's so perimeter heavy, and that's kind of... I think it's mostly him, but it's also a little bit of Joe Mazzulla's philosophy. I think that they're kind of like... they got the same brain, you know?
Well, and I think... I don't want to say he's one-dimensional, but I think he's less versatile on the offensive side of the ball than he... kind of... At least that he deserves credit for. Like, I think he can be an elite all-around scorer, but I think he kind of limits himself to mostly playing on the perimeter. And then,
Yeah. Sure.
The rest of the diet just kind of comes in where it can get in. But I think, if he could use his size more in the post, use his size more just in general, I think it would benefit for him offensively.
Yeah, for sure. He just makes the game... He's another guy like Siakam. He makes the game harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like, you see a guy like Kevin Durant who's just so smooth and he makes it look so easy. And Jason Tatum's kind of the opposite, where he makes the shit look hard. Like, where he's taking all these contested sidestep threes that he loves.
For whatever reason.
But yeah. All of his shots are self-created, basically.
Yeah.
When they don't all need to be. But yeah. We have to put respect that he did win a championship.
He is a champion.
He is a champion.
But not a finals MVP.
He was not the finals MVP. Because he had lots of, like... I'm a guy, I put Jason Tatum below Jimmy Butler the last 2 years, when other people put him above Jimmy Butler. And now I'm putting him below where other people would have him. And I just think that he's not as good as the general consensus kind of is.
There's just something... I feel like it genuinely is just that he makes the game too hard on himself. Because I think he should be on that same playing field and same... where the general consensus has him, that top two, guaranteed. But I just feel like there's something about like the way he plays, and it's
the lows.
Yeah,
I think it's really the lows that we see from him that we don't see from those players that are around that same area.
Yeah.
He's a guy that, like, in the finals, he did not do good. He really only did good against the Pacers, which, like, good for you. You did good against a team that has no defense.
No defenders.
Yeah. It is popular to hate on him now.
Yeah.
Which, I don't really like, just because, like, he is still a great player. Like, he's not a bum.
Yeah.
But I was hating on him first. This was my territory first. But I think another thing that needs to be discussed is that when the shot isn't falling, I think he needs to be better. Which, I mean, you've seen it a little bit more, like with the playmaking. But I still think that it needs to, like you said, getting more inside, getting easier looks for yourself. I think something that isn't talked about is that he's the luckiest player in the league.
He's been blessed with a fantastic roster
He has been
his whole
blessed.
career.
Yes. Getting drafted to like the most decorated franchise in the NBA when they were at the top of their game. He's been in a winning situation right away. Like, he was on a team that they made the playoffs as a top seed, and then they got the 3rd overall pick. Well, they got the 1st overall pick, and then, but yeah, he's a guy that he had Kyrie Irving early in his career. He's a guy that has been making conference finals because the team is just so good, and now he has like this amazing supporting cast, not just on offense but also on defense.
Yeah.
Especially on defense, where it's just so easy for them to win games. And I think that, we haven't really seen him face a lot of adversity. And when we have seen him face adversity, he doesn't really step up in those moments.
And I
like
think
the finals against the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like the finals this year.
Yeah. But yeah. All that to say, he's still an elite player, and I think it's still
Yes.
100% a conversation with the people in the same kind of tier as him. It's just
like, I still have KD below him, or I still have KD below him. I think most of that is just the defense.
Yeah.
I think that, like, at this point of his career, they do similar things. I think that I want Durant to shoot more threes. That's definitely something that, especially when, like, no one on that team wants to shoot threes, I think that Durant is a guy that could take more threes. He doesn't attack the rim as much as he used to because, he's older, which I think, he's kind of the same as Tatum in that way. But Tatum has no excuse. Durant has had an Achilles injury, and he's still averaging 27 after having that crazy Achilles injury, which is, like, we're blessed to be still having Durant play at this high level. Yeah, I mean, Durant, he played 75 games this year, and he played a ton of minutes. I just think it's the defense for me that really separates them. But if you want to put, I'm not mad at the KD over Tatum thing.
Well, here's the thing. My number 3 is LeBron.
Oh, what the heck? Oh, no. I don't agree with this.
I don't know, man. I think it's maybe the Olympics kind of proved LeBron might deserves a spot above him, but I don't know. Just
both are amazing.
Yes, let's make that known. LeBron and KD are both great at basketball.
And Tatum.
Yeah, don't forget Tatum. He's sometimes great too. But I just think, again, it's probably the Lakers' disastrous roster construction, but it just doesn't feel like it feels like they should be better than they are in the regular season. And obviously I don't think that has a lot to do with LeBron. He still can get to the basket, draw a decent amount of free throws, even though he's always kind of disrespected on that area. And I think his 3-point shot is almost at an all-time level, an all-time peak, I should say, for how old he is. But obviously defensively, there's nothing crazy. But luckily,
there isn't with KD either.
This is true. It's
just different levels of offense. I think. Like, KD's gonna get you a bucket, whereas LeBron is more facilitating
the bucket
and making the reads for everyone.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I think LeBron is better. I think that obviously the Olympics showed that he's still a top talent, and like when LeBron is hitting the 3-pointer at the clip he was, like over 40% on 5 attempts per game, I don't know. Like, KD was doing basically the same numbers from 3, like same volume, same percentage pretty much.
Yeah.
So like when he's hitting his 3-point shot like Kevin Durant, it's like, I don't know.
But is
he's
he
a guy
hitting that
obviously-
mid-range like Kevin Durant?
LeBron's not taking as many mid ranges
Yeah.
nowadays though, which I like. I really like that because there were some moments earlier in the Lakers days where he would take mid ranges and it was not a good shot, and we were like, LeBron, why are you taking this mid range?
LeBron's ugly mid-range jumper.
So yeah, he is just a guy that he's getting easy layups at the rim, and he's getting 3-pointers, which is what I want his scoring arsenal to be.
Yeah.
Driving to the basket, and obviously he can't blow by defenders like he used to, but he still looks like a madman on the break. Like,
Yeah.
coast to coast, you could not tell that man is 39.
Yeah.
Like, it is insane. And then, you know, he's got that. He's got his threes, and then he also has his post fade. So, like, you really, those three
That's
things
his
are elite.
bag.
So you just need to, yeah, that's his bag. And, like, I'm good with that. And being one of the best playmakers, when he's needed, he can lock in defensively. Obviously, he has to do a lot of defensive work to make up for, like, Austin
Yeah.
Reeves and D'Angelo Russell and stuff like that. Yeah, I just think that if I have LeBron, Kevin Durant, and Tatum, if I had to choose who do I trust more in a playoff series, who do I trust more in a big game, I am trusting LeBron the most out of all three of those guys. Not just based on reputation. Obviously, you can't talk about LeBron without thinking about that, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think that in those big moments, I definitely want him having the ball more than Jason Tatum, and I think I want him having the ball more than Durant.
That's fair.
And then also, like, you mentioned it a little bit, like, the Lakers team should be better. Yes, he can't backpack a team
Yeah.
like he used to. Like, that, we can see that.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I don't expect a 39-year-old to backpack his team like that, you know?
Yeah. No,
I think at
that's
some
I
point
agree.
the team has to help him out.
Help the old man out.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just so glad that they were able to show out on the Olympic stage Kevin Durant and LeBron and even Steph, and show that their teams are really just a big reason why they're not talked about in these top conversations anymore.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, like, players that are going to win a championship, they're just not talked about because of their team. It's not anything because of their age.
Yeah.
Like, they're still capable.
They just no, that's the thing, and yeah, that's basically all it is. They just not are able to backpack the way they once were, just due to their age. You know, and I think it kind of showed with Kevin Durant as well in the Suns series, in the Timberwolves series, where they kind of, you know, there just wasn't enough that only him and Devin Booker could kind of do offensively, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but these three guys I think are all on the same tier.
Yeah.
But I just have LeBron as the highest, just because, yeah, like what I said, like, when the game's on the line, I want him to have the ball more than the other guys. And also, what does Tatum do better than LeBron? You know?
Sidestep threes.
Hey, LeBron was hitting that three as well. But, like, defensively, defense is half the game, and Tatum's got that. Like, sure, yeah, but also does LeBron have Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps on the defensive end? Or does he have to cover up
D'Angelo
for
Russell
Rui,
and Austin
D'Lo,
Reeves?
Yes. Like, I don't know, man. I got LeBron as second. So, to recap, just because we did it in kind of a weird order, I have LeBron as the second best power forward, then Tatum, then Kevin Durant. I still have Tatum over KD. So what's your ranking of those three?
Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Jason Tatum.
Yeah, so Kevin Durant. Okay, yeah. So, gotcha. All right, and then number one's a bit up in the air.
Yeah, I think it's Aaron Gordon.
Aaron Gordon. I mean,
Aaron Gordon.
we didn't mention him. in
Aaron
honorable
Gordon,
mentions,
if he was
and
2
this is
inches
why.
smaller or taller.
Smaller.
Taller.
I was like 6'6" Aaron Gordon. That's just Zion. I mean, no. Let me stop. Giannis is obviously the best power forward out of these guys. He is a step above the guys we mentioned. He is, and I kind of want to just do some Giannis glazing because I feel like
It's well deserved.
he's very underappreciated.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about the top superstars in the league, everyone's like, okay, there's Luka. Everyone glazes Luka. Everyone glazes Jokic and what he does and gives him love. And then still like the older guys like KD, Steph, and LeBron, obviously. No one's giving that love to Giannis and giving that appreciation that he deserves. He is an unstoppable offensive force. He is the best finisher in the game. And he averaged 30 points per game, 11.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists with a steal and a block on 61% shooting from the field. Like, just those stats alone are historic.
Yeah, still
don't know
super elite defensively.
Yes, still one of the best defenders in the league. Obviously, he doesn't get credit on that end just because, he doesn't put up defensive counting stats,
Yeah.
and just because of his defensive role has him not really guarding the best players in the league all the time. But obviously, we know that when he's switched on to you, with on-ball defense, there's no one better. It's just that he's not put in that position to play on-ball defense as much. He's a guy that, he's going to... he had one of the best seasons we've seen in a while.
One of the best of his
he
career.
He was still only fourth in MVP,
Yeah.
which is insane to me. Like, he should have been in MVP conversations more. Another thing, like I talked about LeBron, how he's been limiting his mid-range jumpers. Giannis has been limiting his jumpers. It's the least amount of perimeter shots he's ever taken, which is something I love. And he was at the rim more than he's ever been in his career, and that's why he shot 61% from the field and such high of a percentage at the rim. I don't know what it is off the top, but something crazy. Defense, we know he can cover so much ground, and I think that in the current NBA, having a defender like Giannis is so valuable as more of that free safety than a guy like Rudy Gobert,
Yeah.
that traditional anchor. I think that having a guy like Giannis that is 7 foot basically and can fly around the court and has that long wingspan is super valuable.
Well, and the thing as well is we talked with the older fellows that it's hard for them to backpack and bring it fully every night and backpack the team every night. Giannis has the ability to do that every night at 100%, and he's gonna go at 110% every night.
Yes, that was going to be my next point. Every possession, he gives it his all. And that's something that, like, you have guys like KD and LeBron who have to pick their spots more just because they're older. And then Tatum is a guy that it looks like he's picking his spots, but there's no reason for him to.
Unintentionally picking his spots.
Yeah, but Giannis is a guy that he will give it his all every single possession, and like he's one of the most unstoppable players in the league. Like single coverage, you can't do anything about it. Even double coverage, he's going to kick it out, or even he could score in double coverage, man. And yeah, really great playmaker, averaging almost 7 assists a game. And when you have shooters around him like Dame and Middleton and even, I guess, Brook.
Malik Beasley
yeah,
was there.
Yeah, now it's going to be Gary Trent. That all Gary Trent has to do, man. Just spot up. Don't be a hero.
Spot up and try to defend.
I'm scared. Yeah, I'm scared he's going to try and be on his shot chucking shit, because he's
That's what he does
has
best.
a tendency to do that. Yes. But no, Giannis is one of the best players in the league. He's a step above these guys. I don't really know if there's much else to say about Giannis right now.
Giannis is still a top 3 talent in the league.
Yes.
And I think
yes.
I think that that is overlooked a lot by the general public just because of how
He is
good
not
the other
talked
two
about,
are.
and he's not talked about enough for a guy that's a top 3 talent in the league. And lots of that I think is his game. But then also people love Shaq, man. People love Shaq, but Giannis is a guy that has that same dominance and even has more of a polished offensive game just because he could do more on that end with the playmaking and the ball handling. But people don't talk about Giannis, and people think that he's boring. I mean, he
It
plays.
definitely. It doesn't.
know.
It doesn't help that we haven't got to see him in the playoffs the last 2 seasons.
That was my last point. Was gonna be that he's a guy that plays all of his games. He gives 100% effort. But the last 2 playoffs, what's really hurt him is that when he is needed the most, that's when his body gives out.
Yeah.
Which isn't great.
Load
Because
management.
They might win those 2 series if he's playing. For sure, the Pacers.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a doubt about that one. But the Heat one is more debatable. But I mean, when Giannis, it's night and day for when Giannis isn't playing. Which
Yeah.
I mean, it should be for a superstar player, but not really for Tatum. Tatum not playing a game is way different than Giannis not playing a game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And this, I mean, yeah. Obviously, the Celtics have the much better surrounding roster, but yeah, it's definitely completely, because I think Tatum just kind of gets a lot of his offense in the flow of their offense, whereas I think with Giannis, you're
He is their offense.
you're taking away their main engine.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just a perfect word to describe him, engine, because that's what he is. He has such a high motor, such a high work ethic. He's going to give it his all. I'm glad that we're, giving him his flowers because he doesn't really get them often. So, yeah, I think that's about it. So
Yeah.
let's go over our lists one more time. At number 1, I have Giannis. 2, I have LeBron. 3, I have Jason Tatum. 4, I have Kevin Durant. 5, I have Kawhi. 6, I have Zion. 7, Paolo Banchero. 8, Karl Anthony Towns. 9, Pascal Siakam. And 10, Lauri Markkanen.
And at 1, I have Giannis. 2, Kevin Durant. 3, LeBron. 4, Jason Tatum. 5, Kawhi Leonard. 6, Paolo Banchero. 7, Zion. I don't know why I said Zion like that. Zion. 8, Karl Anthony Towns. 9, Jaren Jackson Jr. And 10, Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, so the key differences here, we just have Pascal and Jaren swapped for number 9. 6 and 7, Zion and Paolo, we just have them flipped. I have Zion above Paolo. You have it the other way around. And then we have a little bit of difference with LeBron, Tatum, and KD, where I have LeBron at the top, you have KD at the top.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it. I don't agree that KD is better than LeBron, but
This guy's a Kevin Durant
it's-
hater.
Not really, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So that's our power forward list. Next is center, and then the best players in the league. So next time you see us, we'll be ranking the top centers in the league. If you enjoyed this episode and you're on YouTube, subscribe and leave a like. Comment your own list and whose list is better.
Mine.
It's obviously me, but you can comment his name out of pity. And then if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, leave 5 stars and stay tuned for the next episode. So that's all for us now. We'll see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.
Adios.